Welcome to SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Taylour Henderson, Digital Director of Pride.com. Before we are joined by our guests today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs for SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given nearly $7 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. If you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you so much for your support. Now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce actors Taylour Paige, Riley Keough, Nicholas Braun, and Colman Domingo of ZOLA. How are y'all doing this morning?
We're good. How are you?
Great.
Good. We're just going to jump straight into it. ZOLA is such a fun, incredible, unique film. And we all know that ZOLA was adapted from a Twitter thread, which is very original compared to we don't really see Twitter threads into movies. Were any of y'all online when it was first going viral? Were y'all watching that happen, or did you just learn about it later?
I'm a terrible Twitter person, so I'm like, no, I didn't catch up until we got wind of the script and I saw it and was like, whoa, is the depth from Twitter? I'm like, that's wild. So I just thought it was just phenomenal.
Same as me, same as Colman. Wait, why did I say same as me? Same as Colman. I wasn't an active Twitter. I've never been an active Twitter. I would tweet and then log out. I never was up to speed with Twitter culture because it can get real dark.
It can.
Yeah, Twitter's a dark place.
Yeah.
It's like the gutter.
I like it when people tell me they watched it though live. I think that's pretty cool. It was like a Twitter event that no one knew.
Did you watch it live, Nick?
No, I didn't watch it live. I got it later when they sent the script. So.
I didn't watch it live, but I was sent it probably the same week it happened. So I did read it in kind of, not in real time, but into 2015 or whenever that week I read it.
Gotcha. So it sounds like it came with the script when you got the role or when you were auditioning. How did the Twitter thread kind of incorporate into your preparation? Whether that was before or after you got the role, maybe you talked to the original writer, perhaps? How did that play into and let's see, Taylour, if you want to go first.
Yeah, well, my audition was actually the tweets. So It was a monologue. It was always a monologue from the original script I got to when Janix and Jeremy did their magic. So it was literally my audition was like, y'all want to hear a story about how me and this bitch here fell out? It's kind of long, but it's full of suspense. And you're just and then they had us improv and basically make up what happened at the end of the tweets. And so that was fun. And then, when I would get called back, we would curtail it, or she'd have me do more or do less or whatever. So the tweets were a big part of my getting the role.
Mm-hmm. Was that the case for anyone else?
I just felt like I use it as the source material. Like the script was so well developed, in terms of what, Janix and Jeremy worked out with all the character arcs. But I just went to the source material to get there's something about the impulse in the way that Asia wrote it, which is so immediate, it's just so, I feel like that sort of lends itself to our actions and maybe for me, just how you played the character as well. It just felt like
the urgency.
The source material and go from there.
What did you say, Taylour?
The urgency.
The urgency, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The movie has this mystical, surreal quality. Did y'all expect it to be as kind of experimental feeling as when you were filming it? And what was that like watching back afterwards? Maybe Nicholas, if you want to go.
Janixa kind of made us feel like it was a bit surreal, and the costumes, the costumes are not quite what people would wear out into the world. I think it told us a bit about her vision, and then I think we would see on the day this shot is maybe a bit, bizarre or, I don't know. I guess she set the tone in several ways. So I think we felt like we could ratchet it up as well, go a bit bigger, go get a bit weirder.
Ratchet it up in many ways. Riley, if you had anything to add, maybe.
I mean, I think we could feel, on the day that it was like the timing and the pacing and the way it's written and the dialogue, it kind of feels a little bit left of center, and it felt, for me, it definitely felt that way on set. So it wasn't, and the script as well, I think Janixa calls it hyperbole, but I definitely could read that in the script, definitely could feel it on set, and then definitely can see it in the film. So for me, it was, it felt very similar to what I read and what I, thought the tone was going to be.
Janixa showed us, she sent us like a Dropbox of inspiration from Dina Lawson paintings to, I always mess this up, so help me, you guys. But the Garden of Delights, the panels, the 3 panels.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like,
yes, I can think of the anchor, yeah.
Yeah, the Garden of Earthly Delights.
I only know this from doing these interviews.
Yeah, but she like kind of was like, when they first when Stephanie and Zola first come together, it's heaven. Then things get crazy like hell, and just it's like chaotic. And I don't know. She was like overly prepared and detailed and intentional and clear about our movie being somewhere outside of Earth, like somewhere next to Earth, but not quite on Earth.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that. Did it feel different getting into these characters or roles because of that?
I think that it allowed us to really play and be more theatrical than maybe normally we'd be allowed to be. And kind of feel really free in what we did, because it didn't have to, it didn't always have to make sense,
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, I think, because Janixa helped liberate us from the actual characters that it was based on. So that we had some theatrical license with everything, so it's like we had the source material of the tweets and all that, but it wasn't, as I think, at least in the conversations I remember with Janixa, it wasn't like, oh, really do a deep dive into research on this guy. It was like, okay, no, he serves a purpose in this film with these women, and it's important to find that motor and how it fits in with this film. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as if we're playing, the Twitter version of these people. The Zola's, who Zola is seeing and perceiving in front of her. So that gave us a license to kind of really, I think, go for it.
Yeah.
I love that. That reminded me of that moment where your character kind of gets to clap back at the
script.
Which was very funny. Taylour and Riley, did y'all have to learn how to dance? Did you have an instructor? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I grew up a dancer, doing ballet, jazz, hip hop, flamenco, like various techniques.
I did see that you were in High School Musical 3, so I was like,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay, Taylor's being modest. Taylour is an incredible dancer, and she worked with Debbie Allen. Okay, she's like an acolyte of Debbie Allen. She's the bomb. Okay, so let's just put that out there. Okay.
she's like a real ballerina.
Like full out. So she's being shy. She's legit. Yeah.
Thank you guys. But I worked at Crazy Girls on Sunset and La Brea for 4 weeks to prep for the role. Half because I needed the money, truly. We're actors, we're artists. It's ups and downs. It's around. The movie, when I booked it in May, kept getting pushed. It was going to be June, then it was July, then it was August. And I'm like, I need that money. But also I didn't want to look like a ballerina that was trained. I wanted to I wanted to look like a dancer, a stripper, someone who is in the same position as me. That's like, I'm gonna just go dance. So yeah, I didn't want to nod at it. I wanted to become it. And so I worked at a strip club and I went by Lola. And then they're like, we already have a Lola. So then I went by Zoe. and I learned the lay of the land, and I would send Janixa videos, and like there was like a prayer one time in the dressing room, which I think was inspired in the movie. Yeah, so
the moment with Chief Madison, yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Did you do anything like that, Riley, or how did you get ready?
Yeah, well, I played a dancer twice before this, and so I'd done like a little bit of pole dancing prior to ZOLA, but when I talked to Janixa, she kind of wanted Stephanie to not be an amazing dancer, and that's sort of ZOLA's thing, is she's incredible. So I kind of felt like I had enough knowledge from my previous films to do what was necessary for the scene. So yeah, that was kind of my experience.
I just like to note all the nuances that some people might miss, but like, remember when Stephanie goes into her monologue, her perspective, and she's like, she only made one ZOLA, but it's supposed to be like ridiculous because you can see that Zola's like up on the pole doing the most, and Stephanie's just doing the least, and just like the stories we tell, and truth be, just like that societal nod of also just the Black woman having to do the most and do a lot of work and carrying a lot of bags and like being overly prepared or being like beyond, there's like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. And I think that like the directors and creators were very intentional and very with character development. And so there's one moment in particular that I wanted to ask if that was like improv or y'all. Okay, so there's like an overhead shot of Zola and Stephanie peeing at a gas station, and Stephanie's like fully sitting on the toilet while Zola's like squatting over it.
The pee was improv. Her pee happened to be orange that day.
No.
My pee happened to be. I was hydrated.
I'll tell you the only improv line with us in the whole show is I use way too much teeth when I
That was improv?
That was the only improv we had.
Brilliant.
No,
That's
Riley,
brilliant.
also when you said that's facts.
Okay, yeah. There's 2 lines.
Gosh, that's amazing. But it was just like, it felt very character specific. And I just was like, that's so funny because it just reminded me of my mom too.
Oh, the sitting on the toilet that's Janixa. That's like Black woman, Black mom.
Yeah.
We don't touch the toilet. We use our foot to turn on, you use your foot to open the door. You use your foot to turn on to run the faucet, like in public areas, just like, but I think again, that's symbolic of like, there's a freedom when you're white and you have to be, I don't know, maybe just a little bit more on and careful in particular. Just, I think generationally,
Yeah.
Black people.
Yeah. Riley and Nick, I thought y'all looked almost unrecognizable, especially like, okay, so Nick, Perks of Being a Wallflower is one of my favorite movies. And I was like, that's still Derek. But like, what was involved just in like the transformation, even from y'all right now into those characters? Like it looks like a lot of things, makeup, character choices. What was involved in that? Nick, if you want to go first.
I kind of based him on partially my 7th grade self, who dressed like kind of, sagged his jeans and wore terrible fitted,
I need to see the pics.
I was like not the full Derek version, but I had some elements. But then I also met this guy like a few months before doing the movie that I met him. I was shooting something in Kentucky and I met him at a lake that was near where we were shooting on some day off. And he had a chin strap beard. He like wore a lot of the same types of stuff, chains and stuff. And he was obsessed with his girlfriend. And he was like, we fight all the time. We're always fighting, but I love her, man. I love her. And so I kind of like, I went on this guy's Facebook, and when Janixa sent Derek's Facebook stuff, it looked very similar. So I was like, all right, I think I know who this guy is. So yeah, I don't know. I wanted to look like pale and kind of sick and he doesn't treat his body well. He's addicted to this relationship and this woman. And I don't know. So I wanted to look grimy and little cuts and things, and just kind of like sort of diseased and I don't know. I think that was my goal, like thuggy but diseased.
I think that feels like accurate.
Yeah.
Thuggy and diseased.
That's hilarious. Riley, how was that for you? And also like the accent, like what was that modeled after?
Yeah. So, I think, obviously she's a really crazy, outrageous character. So it's definitely was, for one, it was on the page, she was wild on the page. So it wasn't as though I read this boring character on the page and then turned it into this crazy thing, Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as far as preparation goes, it was just a lot of talking to Janixa, getting an idea of what she wanted, how far she wanted to go with it. As far as the accent goes, I had an accent coach named Eris Mendoza who I worked with. I would go to her house and just, do it over and over and over again. She kind of came up with what the dialect would be. And I would send it to Janixa, voice notes, and Janixa would have notes. And then I would go back to Eris and kind of just perfect it. And I basically did it over and over and over again until it felt like until Janixa felt that it was the right dialect and also strong enough. And Janixa didn't really want to sort of go there. She wanted to really push it. So it was just figuring out what that was and also trying not to make it sound like a character. And, so that also involved, I've had a pretty wild life. I've met people like this, these are real girls. These are so, and then, YouTube holes and going down, finding Instagram holes, finding women who are like this and kind of just getting little nuances from them as well.
Yeah, no, I thought you nailed it. I felt like I knew Stephanie in high school, like I was like, I know this girl. Yeah. Let's see, Colman, you as well. Your accent. The accent switches were hilarious. Oh my God, I screamed several times. Like, what did you base your accent on? Was it anyone specific or just what did you base that on?
Well, from the script, knowing that the guy was of possibly Nigerian descent, which I say possible because I like the idea. And my brother told me this. He actually said, after watching the movie, I was confused as whether he was American slipping into Nigerian or Nigerian slipping into American. Like, which one is it? And I think that's actually the answer. I think I work with a dialect coach as well named Amy Stoller to work on a Nigerian dialect. And she was just awesome as well. And it was scripted. And it's something, the turns were in the script, but then I think that we figured out some other turns where we needed to turn or whenever it was useful to keep these women and men thrown off. So you never know. It's always something off with him. Even the idea of like the hazel contact lens. I had an idea because I knew this guy in New York who he was a Nigerian dude who had like, hazel contacts and everything about him was like it was like westernization and weird and appropriation was weird to me. And I was like, Janixa, what if we had hazel contacts for it? She says, what about one? And I thought that was even more brilliant because I think also for the audience, not only for like, these people that I'm my talented three that are on the Zoom, but every single time you look at them, you have to keep looking and like, what the fuck is wrong with your eye? Like, what is up? And I think that's for the audience as well. I love the idea that like in a wide shot, you may not notice it, but the moment I'm close up, you're like, what is going on? and then he, one minute he's charming, the next minute he's not. He's constantly, and it's all for power. It's kind of just when you think he's about to hit you, he's going to kiss you. And then, so he's constantly like keeping his power. So every choice was about like having a position of power in the room at all times, basically, I'm not trying to say that my Nigerian friends are manipulators, but I just, he's used the what he's got to get what he wants,
With your Nigerian barbecue sandals.
I'm sorry. Taylor particularly loved these sandals that I wore. Like she loved anything that had to do with an ashy foot and a Nigerian sandal. Taylor was into.
You guys are all the way lotioned down up until the ankle.
is a character choice, right? He's moving too fast. He ain't got time for listening to speed.
Choices.
I noticed that eye thing, but I didn't really know. I couldn't tell what was going on. That makes so much sense. It was a contact. Wow. But I thought.
Oh yeah, you didn't notice that? Yeah. When you
I was like, what's like you said? I was kind of like put off. I was like, what's happening here? But I couldn't tell exactly what it was.
Because the moment you lean in, and you're like, what's happening here? She cuts to something else.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's also part of the manipulation.
I love that.
I think that's, and leave that to Joy, our editor, as well. Janixa has led such a film where we all are able to give so much of our own creative impulses, and it became this great amalgamation where it's like you don't know where. Honestly, I feel like even discussing it with you guys right now, you don't know where your work begins and another one's ends. I feel like it's like, oh, we made this dance all together. You know what I mean? So like performances, detail, character story, costume, it just all feels like, oh, we did this thing together. We all gave what we had,
I love that. And it's very masterfully done. And I watched a lot of movies, and this is one of my favorite movies of the year.
One of or the favorite? What are you talking about?
Have you seen *Malignant* on HBO Max? But one of my favorites. My last question is: there is some Oscar buzz around ZOLA right now and going into the award season. How does that feel for all of you? I guess Taylour, if you want to go first, what does that feel like?
I'm like, there is. But honestly, that would be wonderful I'm just in awe of these people I get to work with. I became a better artist in person, working with them and just absorbing and learning and watching and witnessing. And I saw how hard Janixa had to trek to make the movie, and also just for the sake of the real ZOLA and her trauma and what she experienced and how she processed it by putting this thing on Twitter. It's the first of its kind. It's pretty iconic. I also just I do value, I think movies can reflect the society we already live in, and we can reflect on the society we live in, or it also is the world we wish to live in. And I just appreciate that our star can just be human figuring it out like we all are. And so I just appreciate that a movie could make this type of situation sacred, even though it was wild. So, yeah.
I love that idea of making it sacred, this wild experience sacred. That's really pretty.
I'd like to add that I think that there's something about what Taylour said, and I think there's something about where we are right now in the film space. I think the idea that our film, if it's getting some Oscar buzz, I think would be really awesome to say that stories like this matter, to say that artists like this matter. To be honest, I feel like it's not something that's like cut down the middle and it's going to succeed and make some money and fill the seats. This actually has something to say about society, about who we are, who we hope to be. I think it's disruptive, actually. I love the idea that our filmmakers is looked at as another Cassavetes in a way. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like to look at these Black and brown people, these women, these young men, and say that they're trying to really speak to the nature of who we are right now and who we can be. It's not just something. I've watched a lot of movies lately, and I'm very judgmental. And to be honest, I think that's where it's coming from. I'm watching a lot of the movies that have been getting a lot of buzz, and I'm like, it's not moving me. It's not challenging me to think differently. It's a version of it. There's a version of that movie 5 years ago, starring it's just different white people. And I think that I just look forward to people. If it's part of the Oscar conversation, I'll say this: it'll be nice for the Oscar voters, and I'm part of the Academy as well. It'd be nice to make sure that everyone's watching our film so they can truly, look at craftsmanship and not just the same old things that they're used to and the same old names, but actually take a look at these faces. People are trying to disrupt. I would say disrupt in a really great way of what film can be and cinema can be. And I think that Janixa and Jeremy and Nicholas and Riley and Taylour is what part of, I think, a cutting edge group of people who are trying to say something differently with this medium. So I get on my bandwagon, but that's what I really feel.
That was great. I hear you, That was amazing.
That was a great note to end on, so I'll wrap this up, I guess. On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank you all for sharing your experiences, process, and craft with your fellow performers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having us.
Bye, Tay.